Anyways, hello. Hi. We're back. We took a little bit of a break. We're just kind of in the middle of fall. A lot of fall holidays started to happen. We didn't mean to go away, but things got busy. You had school. I was dealing with a situation with work. But other than that, we're back. New year, new us. You
Yeah.
know. We've had a hot boy, hot girl summer. We went into Thottam, and now we're in the whoring 20s. Sorry, we're not a very family friendly content. Which I got an email about that recently.
What?
They were trying to determine if my YouTube channel was family friendly, and I was like, we are definitely not family friendly.
Wait, who sent you an email?
Go-
Susan
you-
Wojcicki?
No, it's just YouTube in general. It was a
So Susan
YouTube.
Wojcicki.
Yeah, so YouTube. It wasn't the CEO of YouTube, but it was just the YouTube content guidelines.
It's Susan.
Yeah, yeah. And they're basically saying that, hey, listen, like you gotta determine through COPPA if you don't know what that is, but it's something about like child and like
I thought you
advertising
said
and stuff.
cops. And I was like,
Cop is it COPPA? COPPA? Something like that. It was some law, but it was basically a lot of people were getting it targeted, or not targeted, but like more like channels were getting demonetized because of it. So now I guess their solution was to basically, for me at least, to every time I upload a video, I have to determine if it's a family friendly content or not, and usually I just press no. But anyways, welcome to the podcast. Podcast. I said broadcast. Hopefully we're all exposed correctly.
Wait, hold on. Let me check one thing really fast.
Yeah.
Stop for a second.
Oh, your microphone is not plugged in.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, cool.
I was wondering. I was like,
We're like triple syncing.
from the
No, from the top. No.
top.
That was my fault. We're having a very interesting evening.
Yeah.
A very interesting evening. But anyways, so that being said, hopefully, this won't stop us from cussing a lot.
No, we had to like do the family friendly version of cussing.
Family fashion, like doggone it.
We're freaking over this.
Yeah. We'll definitely watch what we say, but like the content itself will pretty much stay the same.
Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting if we start doing Demon Slayer season 2.
I think you can talk a lot about Demon Slayer without actually cussing.
Well, not just cussing, but like there's a lot of blood in that anime, which I'm learning. I'm like in the middle of it right now.
You know, I actually have a friend of mine who was
Yeah.
like, I actually don't like it.
Really?
Yeah.
We should have them on this podcast and talk about it.
I feel like they
I'm enjoying it. I feel like it's a great anime. Okay, but before it becomes a Demon Slayer podcast, let's go straight into My Hero Academia. That's something for a different time. If you do want us to talk about Demon Slayer, please like us and subscribe. Ring that bell for any notifications. But anyways, back to My Hero Academia. So last time we did one of these podcasts, we decided to not do a summary because we figured everybody in our audience probably already saw the episode. So for the sake of time and for sake of like just making sure like these podcasts are not like dragging on, we're just gonna try to basically just talk about what we thought about the episodes, or what we got out of it. Was it good? Not just like what is good. Like sometimes some of these episodes tend to feel like filler to some degree, and the one of the episodes we did talk about did kind of felt like a little bit of filler, but it did have a lot of story. There's a lot of emotion behind it. But anyways, we're gonna talk about the 5th episode of season 4, which is Let's Go Gusty Red Riot, which is it was a Kirishima centric episode. We did get more backstory of one of the 3, which is you find out his name is Sun Eater.
I love Sun Eater.
And we're gonna talk about the sixth episode, which is episode 69, because apparently the wiki just count sequentially from the very first episode, which 69. Anyways, this is episode 6 of the fourth season. Is called An Unpleasant Talk, and this is the episode where I felt like it was a bit of a filler, but kind of setting the stage up for the stakes that the characters are gonna have within the next, I wouldn't say the next arc, but just like this whole season in general, I feel. And by the way, we saw almost up to date. We're recording this on January not 29th, the 19th. We're only one episode behind, so if you already seen these episodes, yeah, sure, this is just our reactions to these episodes. So, yeah, don't add us, I guess. Anyways, so we start episode 68. I feel like this is a very strong episode. I feel like it's setting the stage up for Kirishima to be more kind of important in this series, and I feel like I kind of like how the pacing is, because it kind of reminds me of almost. And I don't know if I mentioned this before. I have to go back and check it out. But it's kind of like Game of Thrones. You have all these myriad of different characters you could kind of relate to in some way, shape, and form. And it doesn't have to be this idealized version of like, oh, this is our main character. Which, to some degree, yeah, the main character is Deku because we know the most about him. But I think now that we're moving from the first season onward, that now a lot of other characters, side characters, we thought that were just kind of plain back then. I don't know if this is by design, but I felt we're going to learn more about them.
Do you have like a favorite side character that has come up within like the past couple episodes? Do you like Kirishima and his development, or?
I do like Kirishima and his development. But the problem is that's going to be a spoiler for the next couple episodes, because they dive deeper into that while they're.
I mean, you get an intro to his character
so
far. So how do you feel about how they portrayed him as like going out for the first time and doing his job and trying to catch the
villain?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, he does have this kind of like raw determination behind his character, and that's something that I kind of like attached to, and like the way his conversation with Sun Eater about like what got them into becoming a hero. It was an idea that like, oh, there's something deeper into this that Kirishima is not letting on, but just by his action itself he's showing that he's a very capable person in terms of real life dealing with heroes and like dealing with the problems at hand. So he does show himself as a very capable person. Yeah. In this episode also we did get our first introduction to Fat Gum, which is a very interesting character. There's a twist later on, but we're not gonna get into that. we saw that episode like 2 nights ago. The twist.
Yesterday?
Yeah, today's Sunday. Yeah, we watched it on Friday.
Yeah.
We had like a pizza party.
That's right.
Yeah. And his quirk is basically, he's kind of like from what we heard before, was like a defense quirk where he just kind of can absorb attacks and stuff. He can absorb blows with his body.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we also learn about the other character, Najari-chan? Jide. What's her quirk? I'm trying to remember. We're trying to go off our memories too, because it's been a while since we've seen these episodes too. So.
I believe it's related to the wind. I don't remember it 100% right now off the top of my head, but.
So she could conjure like the use of the wind elements.
I think.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit since I actually looked it up, so.
And then in this episode also we had a little bit of Chamora talking to the Overhaul about the plan to utilize these okay. I was like, what's going on?
Hi, friend.
Hello. Yes. I was like, what was that crashing noise? I was like, oh.
We're dropping glass.
Yes, we're dropping glass in the middle of the anime podcast. Anyways, yeah, we got more into we get introduced to more of Overhaul's crew. We got Corneo and Mimic to which is the Mimic's like that little character, right? He's the really tiny dude, and Chrono is also a character that he's the one that threatens Tamura and in the scene by like putting a gun to his head. Um, and I believe the plot is basically it sounded like a from what I remember was a plot to just basically make money off this whole like taking away quirks and then like having a little serum to put in quirks.
I think like a lot of this part of I guess My Hero is related to kind of like manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
Like um I guess normally whenever you look at My Hero, it's a lot about like the heroes themselves. And
Yeah.
like I think you would expect it to be a lot about fighting, but I feel like
Mm-hmm.
these newer episodes relate more to like basically kind of like the portion of it that's kind of run as like a yakuza in a way.
Yeah, like it's leading on to organized crime, and I get a much more better sense of it like later on, and you kind of see where Overhaul like his origin comes from. He does like this kind of organized criminal syndicate or something like that, and
Mhm.
then um and I believe that um uh sorry, Tamura kind of understands that Eren is a very important to this plan, but I don't think in this episode they really tell too much about what is going on. It's just trying to get Tamura to sign in with the League of Villains to this Overhaul crew,
Mhm.
which there's more characters. There's more characters than those that we see in this meeting.
Mm.
You know, we only got to see a few characters, but when later when you see them all together, you're just like, oh, this is like a motley crew of like multiple villains, like
Mhm.
way more than the League of Villains ever had. Okay, maybe not because of the remember season 1, the them ambushing the UA.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Probably not as much as that, but like more at this current kind of canon of situation because I feel like they're they got one of the characters killed off. The magician has one arm now, and now like the League of Villains has like less people than it was before.
Well, I think if anything, like the League of Villains, like obviously has its central characters that are a part of the story,
Right.
but I think like in the overall spectrum of things, after the whole thing that happened with Stain,
Mhm.
I think a lot of hero. Oh, and also All Might too.
Yeah.
I think there's like a sense probably in that universe that there are a lot more different smaller groups that are being like brought up into going into villainy
Mhm.
and
And
crime, you know?
mhm. And
And
I think I mentioned this before as like we were so wrapped up in these characters and their struggles, and I think this was like literally last week's episode that we're saying that we get so wrapped up in Deku and All Might and all of these characters, and we forget like oh there's a bigger country like there's all of Japan that has to deal with this, and I feel like this season itself opens that door
mhm.
to that there's bigger stuff happening outside of UA, outside of the League of Villains, outside of All Might, and outside of All for One.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that being said, I think this episode, biggest importance for the hero side is that Kirishima can pretty much unlocked his Super Saiyan abilities, and he gets shot by the thing that takes away quirks, but he used his hardness to basically stop that from happening.
Mhm.
And we did see an example of the serum that enhances quirks. So we saw an example of the quirks being taken away. We see this guy that basically can get knives or blades out of his body and just kind of like cut shit use it, manipulate it to the point where he could to use to kill other people.
I feel like that thing that he used is probably like their in-world equivalent of like going on steroids.
Yeah, pretty much. And I feel like it and it's coming from Overhaul's crew, right? That's what I'm thinking.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everything within this entire arc is being manufactured and created by him.
Mhm. And so that's kind of the main points of this episode. This is not a summary. This is just our kind of like where we're just pointing out some important things. Any last impressions about this? Because we could just move on to the next one.
Question: how do you
Yeah.
feel about what's his name, Amajiki getting shot?
Oh yeah, Sun Eater. It was it it was a device to show us that this thing another example that it takes away quirks, right? You get this a sense of like this is the stakes that's is gonna be, it's setting the stage of what it means if he was gonna get shot, you know, and and the importance of like really trying to get answers from this guy.
Were you caught off guard? Because that's our first instance of seeing it. So like when you saw him get shot, where you're like, oh my god, he got shot.
Especially when Kirishima got shot, because I knew what that meant, what that bullet meant. And when he got shot and it cut to a commercial, I'm just like, God damn it, they're gonna just let us wait like another 90 seconds to figure out if he's okay or not.
Yeah.
Turns out, like he used
He's
his
fine.
quirk, his hardness to basically do that, which I thought, okay. We didn't see him, but then again, does the velocity of a little dart, is that different from an actual bullet? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm looking too much into this. Anyways, next episode, let's go for it. So the other episode is called An Unpleasant Talk. And so basically, if the last episode was all about, the villains trying to team up together, or at least trying to convince Tamura to join, this one is the heroes concocting a plan to try to figure out how to get Eren out of there. And the heroes kind of gather. We open up just basically all the kids and everything going up to this secluded area, and then we find that all the heroes are like together, and then they're all talking about it. And a big thing at the end is that it just cement that Mirio and Deku, who've met Eren in public, right, saw an Overhaul before, get re-energized to really try to basically get her out of that situation, because it looks like a really dire situation. And yeah, I think this episode kind of felt fillery in the sense that it's very dialogue driven, but the dialogue also felt deserved, because it enforces what Mirio felt, because we didn't necessarily get an idea what Mirio felt at the time. Because I feel that Deku, we're following Deku at that episode where he briefly saw Eren. But I think Mirio in this episode kind of shines a little bit more, because we get a sense of what having to basically not save her at that moment, what that meant. And for them as heroes, it's like they have that all might kind of mentality of trying to save everybody at the same time.
Yeah. I think this episode, or the episode prior, essentially acts as setup for the rest of this arc, because it establishes basically who the characters are, or who the villains are,
right,
and then the potential repercussions of engaging with them.
Yeah.
And then even prior to that, when they first meet Eri, and she's like, they're like walking down the hallway, and she runs into like Deku's arms and whatnot, like, you already get the sense that something's wrong. You just don't know what it is yet. And then with this episode, it establishes like hints about what they are doing to her. And then you get kind of like the sense that like you already know where Deku's coming from. Like, of course he wants to save her, but like in Mirio being like, oh, we shouldn't be like immediately jumping into it. He kind of like, I'm pretty sure feels somewhat like guilty because he had to like not do anything at that time.
It's kind of like almost, I would say, a survivor's guilt almost. Kind of like I could have done something,
Hmm.
for this outcome to be better. But like I wouldn't. I don't think survivor's guilt is not the right word, but just feels guilt in general that like
Yeah,
has
like he could have done something, but
could have
then
done something. Yeah.
like I think like in the long run, I think it makes sense for him not to though, because
Mm-hmm.
since he has more experience, he's not like in like Deku where he immediately is just like, oh, we gotta
At any cost, and I feel yeah.
like right now, everything right now.
Yeah, I think this episode kind of reinforces that Mirio this is not his kind of first rodeo, but he don't. But this one seems different because there's a child involved.
I mean, in a way, if you think about it, it establishes how different Mirio and Deku are. Like,
Yeah.
because to like Night Eye, right? He
Mhm.
obviously wants Mirio to take up the mantle of where All Might would have been, basically. And Deku obviously has
Has the
quirk,
yeah.
and so since if you're looking at it from like Night Eye's point of view, and you're looking at Mirio and you're looking at Deku, obviously you kind of feel like Mirio would be the best choice to be the, I guess like
The receiver of the All for One
not that, but like to
successor.
succeed.
Yeah, the successor. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
I was like,
I was like, what was this word?
anyways,
It's a long night.
but yeah, you get the sense that he wants Mirio to succeed all might, but like, and then I mean like even with Deku, like the whole reason why he accepted Deku into his agency was because he wanted to show Deku that Mirio was the person that should be the one.
Yeah, but I feel like this also works in like there's somebody in the other room that like had like a very like good like theory on like I guess the end game
Mm-hmm.
of what's happening, but I think Deku and Mirio kind of play off each other very well
Mm.
in the sense that Deku does have that impulse, not I wouldn't say impulsive, well, or that drive. He does have the drive to save anyone at all costs. Mirio has a perception of I want to do this, but it looks like this is way more dangerous than we could even think at this point,
I
and
think
to proceed.
yeah, I think he has this like the sense or like the experience to kind of like pick up on certain things, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like that kind of like um sense of time that you
Mhm.
end up getting as you start working into like a job long enough. I think
Mhm.
he has that kind of feeling, especially when it comes to like doing jobs like this where he knows instead of like immediately taking her and being like, I'm out.
Yeah, like bye y'all. I got my
I
mission
got
done.
to go, and then
Yeah.
he's just like, well, I have I have to not be able to do anything for this to succeed in the long run.
And I think like this episode kind of merges those two kind of paths together almost, and I think that's why it works in this. That's why the meaning works the way it does, is because it's bringing those two kind of ideas into like a one field, and then setting the stage up for the next episode, it being their assault on all of the known Yakuza organization, the shiny
Shiny,
shiny
shiny,
Hasakia. Is it Shine?
shie.
Shie Hasakine? Hasakai. I'm totally butchering this, y'all. We need somebody that actually speaks this.
The coming arc.
Yeah, the coming arc where they raid the Yakuza hideouts, because they showed a map of Japan, and it's like all known sites, and it goes up from Hokkaido all the way down to like Okinawa, I guess.
Oh.
So that was a small detail of like how wide reaching, I think at least overhauls kind of grasp kind of consumes.
I would have never bigged it out.
Oh, you did you not see that part of the episode?
You underestimate my ability to look at a map and be like, I know where I'm going.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's like,
I guess.
it just looks like tic-tac-toe.
Yeah, you okay. I was just like, we should really learn geography.
Yeah, we're in a very weird, blessed generation of just having everything in our hands, which is really.
Yeah.
We need to go back to the days where we had maps in the car.
I remember having maps in my car. I have an old atlas from like 1994.
I don't even have a map in my car.
I was just like, this is probably good for LA, but not good for anywhere else.
I just use my phone, hope that Siri's guiding me the right way. I'm just like, take me home.
I don't know where I am. Take me home.
It's time to go.
Yeah. Anyway, so.
Country road, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia.
Okay, we don't want to get. Okay, let's not get demonetized here. The bandwagon, the bandhammer, the YouTube bandhammer. Anyways, I think if we're missing anything, Sun Eater has his quirk back, or determined that he's slowly getting his quirk back. Yeah, after his injuries from the last
they're
episode.
laying the hints down, sprinkling it.
Yeah. Other than that, I think the next episode is the assault on all of those sites. I think we'll just close it out in here now,
and we'll pick it up in the next.
We'll pick it up in the next one. So like I said, like and subscribe. We had a very rough start on the anime podcast, but hopefully our next episode is gonna be the next two. So we're trying to get caught up. Probably planning for the future. We just want to at least finish the series, the season of anime podcast, or at least the anime podcast for My Hero. And we'll hopefully we'll see you in the next time. And please let us know on what other anime you want us to talk about. If you want us to talk about anime movies, we're gonna have a Weathering with You. I think that one already came out. I think I want to release that one first.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna release that one sometime this week.
Yep.
Yeah, and then this one will be on its regular time. Other than that, please do all those fun stuff, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
I've only ever watched 2 Makoto Shinkai films.
Oh, so it's just Your Name and this one. I know of the previous one before Your Name. I didn't see that.
So my intro to Makoto Shinkai is kind of weird.
Yeah.